Hello and welcome to the Valley. Today I am your host, Janet Michael. It is Extension Office Friday. I am back on the Zooms today with Karen Poff, so everyone knows that listens on the regular. That means we're going to be talking money, although Karen never ceases to surprise me. And we are going to be talking about a money topic, but not one necessarily in the form that we've talked about before. So Karen manages the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program through the Extension Office. She's based in Warren County, but she serves all 5 of our surrounding counties. And Karen, when we were emailing, I'm like, oh, do you want to do something on how to save money? And you're like, people don't care about that this summer. How about we do these money habitudes? And I'm like, the money what's? I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, I was looking for a topic that was lighter, that people wouldn't have to really focus and concentrate. And so this is a fun topic, but it's real because your money habitudes, and the habitudes are a combination of your habits and your attitudes. That's a habitude. Your money habitudes affect how you manage your money and also can impact, obviously, how successful you are at managing your money or not. And so it really is helpful for people to know, what's my money personality and how can I work with that? None of these habitudes that we're going to talk about are good or bad in and of themselves. They all have advantages and challenges, but knowing yourself and understanding your spending is not just black and white. It's a part of who you are. It's a part of how you think. It's a part of what's important to you. So understanding yourself helps you to be more intentional about how you're managing your money.
That's the ultimate goal. Nothing that we have ever talked about has been you saying, fist on the table, you've got to stop doing this. It's all been about education and awareness, because ultimately we have to recognize and then make those changes ourselves.
Absolutely. And I tell people in my classes all the time, there is not a right or wrong. I'm not going to tell you this is right and this is wrong, this is good or this is bad, because each person, it's their own satisfaction with how they're managing your money or not, and how that is affecting their life or not. So when people get dissatisfied with how things are going with anything, not just money, then they decide that they may want to make a change so that they can be more satisfied. That's all it is. But the neat thing about this framework is that it is research-based. It is Money Habitudes. If you want to Google it, you can find it for yourself. But they have done years and years of research about these money personality categories and how they affect people's behaviors around money.
And you typically incorporate this into your money management classes, your financial literacy classes that you do throughout the year.
Right. Typically, depending on the subject that I'm teaching, if it's a series class, I'll try to incorporate this at the beginning, where people are trying to understand what's important to them and how they work with their money. It's really a good introduction to people to help them know where they are and then where they want to go.
And this is physically a card game. So let's do one of the cards. Let's start with the carefree personality, which sounds a little bit like me, but not 100%.
I was thinking that you probably would be either carefree or maybe spontaneous when we get to that one. So if I had to guess. Now, in the actual card deck, what you do is you sort money statements into the categories, and then you figure out which of these you are. But most people, I think, when they hear the characteristics of the different types, are going to be able to pinpoint themselves anyway. You don't necessarily need to do the card sort to figure out what you are. It may confirm which personality or not. But with the carefree one, that one is just, money's not really a priority. You just let life happen. You spend as you go, not much planning. Just by the word carefree, it tells you they're really not dissatisfied necessarily with the way things are going. They're just letting it happen and not worried. And none of these are good or bad, just like we just talked about. They all have some advantages and some challenges. In every area, there may be things that we want to adapt or adjust. I know when we get to some of them, I can tell you what some of my things are, but this carefree one isn't me. So let's talk about you, right?
Right. Well, I was looking at the advantages, and some of them are you're optimistic, you're not necessarily distracted by money considerations. And I'm thinking that, yeah, that's kind of me, that's kind of me. And then I get down to the challenges, and it's, oh, those are me too. Aha. It was an aha
Right.
moment.
but no right or wrong. And definitely, I think the challenges for this one really boil down to if you're letting life happen so much that then you can't pay your bills on time. You can't take advantage of an opportunity that comes along that you want to do because there's no savings. You can't handle an emergency because you haven't set aside money for that. So the challenges can be overcome, and you can still be your carefree person. But knowing what those challenges are can help you take some steps to overcome them.
The next card that you had sent me was giving. And the one thing that's jumped out at me as I was going through all of these is I felt like, wow, I'm 10% this, 25% that, 15% this. You could be a combination of all of these.
Oh, definitely. If you do the card sort, you'll find that there's usually a dominant one where you have 9 or 10 cards in that category. And then there may be a secondary one that was like 8 or 7. And then you still have some of the other cards in. And I usually will do it with the group just to see how it's going. And there's not usually a category completely missing. I might just have one card that's spontaneous, but that's one. And my daughter would be jumping up and down and clapping her hands that I had one. So yeah, you're exactly right.
And I could see where they also flow into each other. So when we're talking about the giving card, money helps you feel good by giving to others. How do you see yourself? Thoughtful, charitable. You have strong values and convictions. I'm going, yes, yes, yes. And I do sometimes, because of the carefree portion, think, you know what, I'm going to donate to Winchester CCAP because Andrea needs it a whole lot more than I do right now. Instead of maybe thinking, but am I going to need it in 3 months? Am I going to need it next month to cover something else? So it's really interesting to be able to see how one could influence another.
Definitely. Also, with the giving one, there's a lot of relationship in there. I often see when I'm working with people who are allowing, and it's usually family members, to take advantage because they're so giving and they have such big hearts. And that is a wonderful thing for people to have big hearts. Lots of advantages to that. But then the challenge is that sometimes people take advantage of that, or they're so giving that they don't get their own needs met. Again, a good thing, but there can be some challenges. I've actually worked with, and this is a parent-child thing, but a couple of times people who've been in bankruptcy. We used to have a class that we would teach related to the bankruptcy. And when people talked about the reasons for their bankruptcy, their reasons were not their own debt. Their reasons were that they paid off their kids' mortgage so they wouldn't get foreclosed on, or they paid off their student loans or whatever. And then here the parent is left in bankruptcy because they didn't get their own needs met. So being giving is good, and designating a portion of your income to go towards giving is wonderful, but that needs to be tempered with, are my needs met? So we just need to recognize both the advantages and the challenges with each of these.
This next card has your name written all over it. My next card here says planning.
And how did you know? Absolutely. Every time I do this, planning is dominant. And the next one after that, security, is secondary to planning. I'm the person that when I was deciding where to go to college, and this was 40 years ago, we didn't have any electronic spreadsheets, but I had my paper spreadsheet. And down one side, I had all the characteristics of what I wanted the school to have. And across the top, I had all the schools, and I marked an X in each box of who fit the criteria. So yes, you hit the nail on the head. Planning is mine. But there are challenges to that too. Money helps you achieve your goals is the statement that goes along with that. You can feel responsible and accomplished. You make your intentional decisions based on your goals and what you want to happen. People that plan tend to have reserves when they have unexpected come along and have a sense of well-being and control. So people would say, oh, those people have it together. Isn't that great? And somebody might look at me and say, she's got it together. But what are the challenges? This is the part my daughter would say. I might feel pressured to spend in ways that don't fit my budget. So I'm with somebody and they want to spend and I'm like, but I don't want to spend. And that can cause some tension. Or I might be expected to help others, like those parents that bailed out their kids because I have it and the other person doesn't. This one's the one she always hits at. I find it hard to respond to new opportunities. If it's not in my plan, oh, should I spend? There's a bus trip to Sight and Sound Theater that I really want to do in August. And it's like, but look at how much it costs. Can I do that? But I should, right? Because you should have some fun in your life. the people that are the planners, it's not necessarily a balance. So I can see that what it might look like to somebody on the outside that I have my act together isn't necessarily meeting all of my needs and goals, and it could use some more balance.
Because sometimes you end up setting yourself up for that disappointment. During Amazon Prime Day, I had my eye on a vacuum because we've got 400,000 dogs, it seems like, when you look at the dog hair laying on the floors and on the furniture. And there was a cordless Bissell vacuum cleaner that Amazon Prime had. It was $229 normally, and it was on Prime Day deals for $129. And I thought, okay, that's a really good deal. Let me see if I can find it somewhere else. So I did the whole looking around. And then, of course, Prime Day deals ended and I didn't get it. But then I noticed Target has it for $129. So we go to Target and they are out of stock.
Oh, bummer.
So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get online because the woman at Target said you can still go online and order it and just have it shipped and everything will be fine. So we left the Target store. We get to the car. I go to order it and they were out of stock everywhere. You couldn't even order it online. So for the next 2 days, I am complaining and yelling and thinking, this is so unfair because I wanted that vacuum and it was only $129. And my husband is like, are you going to use it? Is it going to help you? Just spend the $229 and get it.
Right.
And I can't bring myself to do it as much as I want that vacuum. I am not, when I know I could have saved $100, I am not just going to give Target an extra $100 because.
And it's a perfect example because in the beginning, the reason you lost the opportunity was because you wanted to go and compare the prices. And that's what a planner does. We go and compare the prices. So it's a great example of how every one of these has some challenges that we need to learn to overcome.
Let's take a break. When we come back, let's jump into the security card, which, as you mentioned, is your second highest money trait. Can we do that in the next segment?
Awesome.
We are on the Zooms today with Karen Poff. Karen manages the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program through the Virginia Cooperative Extension. She's based in the Warren County office, but serves all 5 of our surrounding communities. We're going to come back and go through 3 more of these cards in just a couple of minutes. In just one day, you can help shape a stronger, more connected community. On September 19th, United Way of Northern Shenandoah Valley will lead Day of Caring, the region's largest single-day volunteer event. Over 900 volunteers will roll up their sleeves to help local nonprofits with projects that matter. Painting classrooms, repairing shelters, planting gardens, organizing food pantries. Whether you're a business looking to sponsor, a nonprofit in need of an extra set of hands, or a neighbor ready to serve, there's a place for you on Day of Caring. This is what community looks like when we come together. This is care in action. Learn how to get involved at unitedwaynsv.org/dayofcaring or email dayofcaring@unitedwaynsv.org. One day, hundreds of hands, lasting impact. Join us. Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is Extension Office Friday, and we are on the Zooms with Karen Poff. Karen manages the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program through Virginia Cooperative Extension. She is based in the Warren County office, though she serves all 5 of our surrounding counties. We've been going through some of the cards in the Money Habitudes game, and I'm having a few epiphanies, Karen, I have to tell you. Not in a million years would I have ever considered myself to be a planner, but apparently I am a little more of a planner than I even thought.
That's a good thing.
So one of the other things you were saying earlier, when in the grand scheme of the game, you have the most cards under the planning category, but then security is second for you. That's not shocking or surprising to me at all either.
Yeah, and being married to someone that security is probably their highest one, that doesn't hurt either. But this one, the statement for this one is money helps you feel safe, secure, and in control. So other people might see you as thrifty or well prepared. Some people might think that you're cheap. People can have both positive and negative impressions of these personalities based on their experiences in life. But there are a lot of advantages to this one, just the same ones that you would think of if you were just coming up with them off the top of your head. These people probably have a budget and some financial goals. They probably have some savings set aside for emergencies. That's definitely something that someone who has a security personality would have. They probably tend to be conservative and shop wisely for value items, like we were talking about before. And some of these kind of overlap as far as the behaviors that people would do. They probably take care of their possessions so they last a long time, or buy quality items. They're probably better at delaying gratification, which is really funny because if we're talking about money personality, yes, definitely security. But if we were talking about food personality, I can't delay my gratification at all. So these don't necessarily carry over in other parts of your life. But then there are a lot of challenges for people, and some of them are very similar. They save so much money that there's not enough money for today's wants or needs, or, they don't want to spend the money to go on the bus trip. I hear about people in retirement, which I'm not that far from there, where they're not able to spend down their retirement money. You saved it all these years so that you could live well in retirement, and then you can't have any fun in retirement because you're so worried about outliving the money. That may be one of the challenges. These people may buy on price even if it isn't exactly what they wanted. Sacrifice their ideal product because this other one is cheaper. Sticking so strictly to your budget that you might not take advantage of sales or fun opportunities like the bus trip. Or you might sacrifice enjoyable activities or relationships because of the cost. You don't go shopping with that person because you know that they always want you to spend money, but instead of having a conversation and deciding to do something different or whatever, you just avoid that relationship. So there are, with all of these challenges, to be overcome as well.
So spontaneous sounds vaguely familiar. As I just finished telling you about how, oh, it's a good deal, I'm going to buy it.
Right, and I would have said that with carefree and spontaneous. If I had to pick two of them for you, that would have been it. And spontaneous, from my perspective, is my least. That would be the one that I had only one card for usually. Maybe status as well. But this is the one that my daughter is always saying, you've got the money, you need to use it. You need to do something and have fun. I went on a trip with her and I was worried about spending, and she didn't have as good of a time. She told me later, not during the trip, but she said, the next time we go on a trip, you got to promise me that you're not going to worry about the money. Just set aside however much for this trip and then spend it. Don't agonize over every choice that we make. So see, there's a challenge with my planning and security that I'm actually inhibiting her from enjoying her vacation. So all of these behaviors affect other people too. But spontaneous, as you can imagine, money encourages you to enjoy the moment. You can be seen as daring and open-minded, or sometimes impulsive, maybe, or unconcerned with the consequences, depending on the situation. But the great thing for these people, you're able to enjoy adventures and your vacation, or somebody asks you to do something, you're able to take advantage of that and not lose out because you're stuck in your plan that you can't adjust or change. There's probably lots of people who would like to go with you and do things and have fun with you, friends and acquaintances. You don't have to have that delayed gratification because you're just going to get it if you want it. There is some risk taking in this one. That impulsiveness and taking advantage of the moment is actually something that makes some people feel good, just that element of risk there. But of course, there are challenges.
Yeah, there are many of these where I'm like, you know what? I've got it. I'm going to spend it. And then 3 days later, the dog is diagnosed with epilepsy. And I'm like, didn't expect that vet bill. Probably shouldn't have bought that new whatever. Yeah, you may be enjoying the moment. That moment sometimes comes back to bite you later.
Exactly. And for some people, they end up going into debt because they spend more than they actually have, since we have credit cards and buy now, pay later and all of that. They may often owe money. That may add stress. They may be enjoying the moment when they're spending, but the other moment when they're looking at the bills or the collection notices or whatever, that is not so fun or enjoyable. They may feel powerless to control their spending or keep money secrets because they feel guilty of how they're spending. But they don't want other people to know how much they spent on this or that.
Okay, so it's not so much about how much, but I will tell you that my neighbor across the street gets a chuckle every Friday when it's trash day because Tim takes the trash to the curb on Friday. And then about an hour later, once he's gone, I take all the Amazon boxes from the basement to the curb. And he would not care less. Honestly, he probably would not care less what it is. And he sees things that just are popping up. But
Right.
there's something about, I'm going to take these boxes later. And the neighbor sits across and just shakes his head and thinks it's hilarious that here I come waddling down the driveway with 8 more Amazon boxes.
That is so funny. But again, such a great illustration. There's great advantages to being spontaneous, and there's also some challenges. And we just need to recognize both and try to strive for balance.
Oh, yeah. And this last card that we're going to talk about, I don't know that it applies to me or quite frankly to you either, which is status. I know people that it probably applies to in a huge way, but I hope it doesn't apply to me.
Remember, all of them have advantages and disadvantages, so there's not a right or wrong. Someone that has status as one of their primary, dominant, or secondary has some advantages that maybe you and I don't have, believe it or not, on this issue. The first item there presents a strong first impression. So the fact that status really isn't important to me, and people laugh at me because sometimes I'll tell the story of how I choose my clothes in the morning. They're in a row. Like I have 14 outfits, 14 pairs of pants, and I match a shirt with them. And then for 2 weeks, all I do is pick the next thing in the row. When I get up in the morning, I don't have to decide anything. I just go and get the next outfit in a row. That may actually be a negative because the people that I'm meeting, maybe I'm meeting somebody important. Maybe I'm meeting somebody that would expect a better level of presentation or whatever. That can be a disadvantage if I'm not dressed to the standards for that.
Or you're meeting the same person
event.
every 2 weeks on a Tuesday and wearing the same exact outfit.
That is true. That is true. Other advantages, I might make generous donations. I might be giving, because both of those can also be based on other people's impressions of my giving and my donating. I'm also probably paying attention to what is important to others. And when you think about relationships and getting along with people, it might actually be disrespectful for me to go, and I'm just thinking about dress. Say I had gone to a funeral. I had to go to a funeral last week and wore holy jeans and a t-shirt. I'm not worried about my status, but that actually is almost disrespectful. So there is an important thing about acknowledging other people's impressions and other people's thoughts and concerns. But then the challenges. So the statement for this one, I don't think we said. Money helps you present a positive image. So that in itself is a good thing. But another statement that we've all heard for all of our life is keeping up with the Joneses. And that can be one of the challenges of this one. I want to drive the fancy car because my neighbor is, or I want the fancier house or whatever. It can be a negative. It can make other people think that we're more wealthy than we really are, or we may get pressure to spend more because people think that we have more when we really don't. We might spend unwisely just because we're trying to keep up that image. So lots of challenges. And on this one, I will talk about my daughter again. Hopefully she's not listening, right? No, it's not a bad thing. When you're a teenager, this status thing is really important.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's part of your money personality later in your life, it's important when you're a teenager. And she had this dilemma because I didn't necessarily go out and buy the DoorDash and the American Eagle and the Hollister and all that stuff. I gave her a budget, and this is what she got to live on to buy your back to school clothes or whatever. Well, she found the happy medium here. She went to Plato's Closet and she got the Hollister and the American Eagle and whatever. She was able to keep the status thing going and feel in and feel a part of the crowd or whatever, but she hadn't spent a fortune on it either. So status, again, in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's got advantages and it's got challenges. And just like what she did with that situation, we all need to learn to come to grips with what our natural money personality is, and then how we can manage it within the confines of our budget.
And that's the whole point of all of our conversations, the classes that you do, and this card game in general it's about the awareness.
So many people think that it's just about crunching the numbers, and that's only a small piece of financial management. The behaviors, the feelings, the thoughts, the wants, all of that is a factor. And if you never deal with the social and emotional implications, your numbers are never going to work out.
Now that we've gone through some of these, if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, I am a little bit of all of them, or I am way too much in the status or way too much in the giving or the planning, what do you say to those people that are listening right now?
We would recommend, whether you're a planner or a carefree, that you have a spending plan. We would recommend to anybody to have a spending plan. If you don't have a spending plan, then considering what your personality is, try to come up with a spending plan that might work within that personality. If you need help, you could take a money management class. You could go online and look up information about money personality. But I like this one because it is research-based. There are other money personality things, but I think the only value of this information to you is if you want to apply it to actually how you spend your money. If you're still a carefree person and you don't care yet to work on how you spend your money, then it might just have been a way for you to be more aware, but you're not ready yet to take action. But if you're a planning person and you have the budget down to the minute, and then you've realized today, wait a minute, maybe I need a little bit more spontaneity in my life, then maybe you carve out a certain amount of your budget that's going to be, this is money that I can use whenever. And it's not dedicated to a certain category. So I think within your planning how you're going to be spending your money, you can take what you learned today and translate it into changes in how you work with your money to improve your life.
I think this is such a low barrier way to talk about money than you and I traditionally have had, but that people in general do. Because like you said at the beginning, this isn't so much about crunching the numbers. It's about understanding the mindset and the why and that sort of thing. And I think people are more open to coming at money management from that angle than they necessarily are, let me show you my bank account.
Absolutely. And I think too that when people hear in a money management class, I'm not going to tell you that something is right or wrong. It's your life. They feel relieved and empowered, but they don't hear that until they get to the class. So they won't come to the class because they think that somebody's going to be judgmental and telling them what they have to do.
Thank you for this very fun conversation. I have taken notes, and my husband and I will be having a very in-depth conversation this evening.
Well, good. I guess that'll be a good thing. I don't know. I may hear from him later.
Yeah. Or the next conversation you have with me, I may say, hey, I don't have to take the Amazon boxes out to the curb anymore. He just takes them out with the regular trash. Baby steps are important.
Exactly. Definitely. One step at a time.
Thank you for taking some time today.
It was great. I so enjoyed it.
I will be back on Monday with a brand new episode of The Valley Today, a few minutes after noon. So meet me here then.